The fluorescent lights in the county medical center's financial services office hummed with the kind of persistence that made Maya's headache worse. She sat in the plastic chair that had molded itself to the shape of 1,000 desperate people before her, clutching a manila envelope containing test results she couldn't afford, and a treatment plan that might as well have been written on the moon for all the accessibility it offered. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Mrs. Castellano, I understand your situation is difficult. The financial counselor, Brenda, according to her nameplate, had the practiced sympathy of someone who delivered impossible news 5 times before lunch. But without insurance or the ability to make a down payment, we simply cannot proceed with the recommended treatment protocol. Maya's fingers tightened on the envelope. Inside were the words that had shattered her world 3 weeks ago. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Aggressive. Treatment required immediately. Estimated cost: $340,000 for the full course of chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Expected survival rate without treatment: 6 to 8 months. There must be payment plans, medical loans, something. Maya hated the pleading note in her voice, but pride was a luxury she'd surrendered somewhere between the diagnosis and the realization that she'd be leaving her 9-year-old daughter an orphan before Emma's 10th birthday. We do offer payment plans, but they require a $50,000 down payment and proof of income sufficient to, I make $32,000 a year as a home health aide. The words tasted like ash. I'm already 3 months behind on rent. My car has 180,000 miles and sounds like it's dying. I have $247 in my checking account. Maya stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the linoleum. So unless you accept payments of $20 a month for the next 1,000 years, I think we're done here. Brenda's expression shifted from sympathy to something closer to pity. I'm sorry. I truly am. Have you considered applying for Medicaid? Or, I make $400 too much to qualify for Medicaid. I checked. Maya grabbed her purse, a thrift store find that Emma had decorated with fabric markers last Christmas. Pink flowers and wonky hearts. Thank you for your time. The walk to the hospital's main entrance felt like miles. Maya's legs moved automatically while her mind spiraled through impossible calculations. Quit her job to qualify for Medicaid? Then how would she feed Emma? Take out credit cards? She'd maxed out the 2 she had paying for the biopsy. Beg her sister in Phoenix? Linda had 3 kids of her own, and a husband who'd made his feelings about handouts crystal clear. She was so lost in the mathematics of desperation that she almost walked past her daughter. Mommy! Emma's voice cut through the fog. Maya's head snapped up. Emma sat on a bench near the hospital's main entrance, swinging her legs and chattering animatedly to the woman beside her, Mrs. Chen, from apartment 3B, who'd agreed to watch Emma for 2 hours while Maya attended her appointment. Hey, baby. Maya forced brightness into her voice, the same false cheer she'd been manufacturing for 3 weeks. Were you good for Mrs. Chen? She was perfect, as always. Mrs. Chen stood, gathering her shopping bags. We walked to the corner store, got a snack. No trouble at all. Thank you so much. I'll pay you. No. Mrs. Chen waved her off, as she always did. Emma is a joy. You know this. She squeezed Maya's arm, her eyes too knowing. You take care of yourself, dear, and let people help when they offer. After Mrs. Chen left, Maya sank onto the bench beside her daughter, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the appointment drained away, leaving only the crushing weight of reality. Did the doctor say you're all better? Emma asked, her dark eyes so much like her father's searching. Maya's face with the unsettling perceptiveness of children who've learned to read their parents' moods for survival. Getting there, sweetheart. Another lie to add to the growing collection. Hey, we should get going. Don't want to miss the bus. Mommy, look. Emma suddenly hopped off the bench and darted toward a nearby trash can. Emma, don't touch. But her daughter had already reached into the receptacle, her small hand emerging with a black leather wallet. Someone dropped this. Emma held it up triumphantly, then immediately began wiping it on her jacket, which was 2 sizes too big a hand-me-down from her cousin. Baby, we need to leave that. Someone will come back for it. But what if they don't? What if they really need it? Emma was already opening the wallet, her face scrunching in concentration as she tried to read. There's cards and... Mommy, there's a lot of money. Maya's stomach sank as she crossed to her daughter. and looked at the wallet's contents. Emma wasn't exaggerating. Thick bundles of $100 bills, at least 20 of them, maybe more. Her heart began to pound. $2,000, maybe $3,000. Enough for the down payment. Enough to start treatment. Enough to buy herself time to figure out the rest. "We should find who it belongs to," Emma said, her voice carrying the absolute certainty of a child who still believed the world operated on fair principles. "That's what Daddy would have done, right?" Maya's throat constricted. Emma barely remembered her father Luis had died in a construction accident when Emma was 4, but she clung to the stories Maya told her. Luis the hero. Luis the honest man. Luis who'd always done the right thing. Luis who'd also left them with nothing but debt and memories. "Right, baby. That's exactly what Daddy would have done." Maya took the wallet with trembling hands, careful not to touch the cash. Inside, she found a driver's license with a photo that made her breath catch. The man was probably in his late 30s, with dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and harder edges. His eyes, even in the DMV photo, held a kind of intensity that made Maya instinctively uneasy. He wasn't handsome in any conventional sense, his features were too severe, his expression too cold, but there was something magnetic about him nonetheless. Dante Moretti. The address listed was in Cathedral Heights, the neighborhood where Maya had cleaned houses during college, where people had more money in their wine cellars than Maya would see in a lifetime. "What do we do?" Emma asked, bouncing on her toes. Maya stared at the license, at the cash, at her daughter's expectant face. This was a test, she realized. The universe's cruel joke. Here was the answer to her prayers, sitting in her hands, belonging to someone who probably wouldn't even notice it was missing. She thought of the financial counselor's pitying expression, of the envelope in her purse with its death sentence diagnosis, of Emma's next 9 birthdays that Maya might not live to see. Then she looked at her daughter, who was watching her with absolute trust, waiting to learn what kind of person her mother was. Maya closed the wallet with shaking hands. "We find a phone number and call him, or we go to the address. Can we go to his house?" Emma's eyes lit up. "Like delivering it in person? That's more special. More special. God, the innocence of children. The address is pretty far, baby. We'd have to take 2 buses and—" "Please, Mommy? It'll be an adventure." Emma grabbed her hand. "And he'll be so happy. Maybe he thought it was gone forever." Maya looked at her daughter's eager face and felt something crack in her chest. This was who Emma was: kind, optimistic, still believing in goodness despite living in a 1-bedroom apartment where the heat barely worked and dinner was often cereal because that's what they could afford. "Okay," Maya heard herself say. "We'll return it in person." As they walked toward the bus stop, Maya clutched the wallet in her purse like it might explode. She didn't know that the man whose license she'd just seen was currently in a meeting 12 blocks away, conducting business that would horrify her. She didn't know that her daughter's simple act of honesty was about to set off a chain of events that would change all their lives irrevocably. And she definitely didn't know that in exactly 48 hours, Dante Moretti would be standing at her door with legal documents that would force her to make an impossible choice. All she knew was that the right thing felt like the hardest thing, and she was so very tired of hard things. Dante Moretti listened to Vincent's report with the patience of a man who'd learned that interrupting meant missing crucial details. They sat in the back office of Moretti's, the restaurant that served as both legitimate business and convenient meeting place, surrounded by exposed brick and the smell of garlic and old wine. "The Calabrese family is moving product through the ports again," Vincent said, sliding a folder across the table. "They're using that shipping company we flagged last month. We could shut it down, send a message." Dante opened the folder but didn't look at it. Instead, he studied his consigliere, noting the tension in Vincent's shoulders, the slight twitch near his left eye. "What else?" "The prosecutor who's been sniffing around our construction contracts? He withdrew from the case this morning. Personal reasons." "How personal?" "How personal?" "His daughter got into Columbia, full scholarship." Vincent's expression remained neutral. "Anonymously funded." Dante nodded slowly. This was how his world worked: pressure and release, threat and reward, violence and generosity operating on the same spectrum. He'd learned it from his father, perfected it through 15 years of turning the Moretti family from a mid-tier operation into one of the 5 most powerful organizations in New York. And the union dispute? Resolved. The shop steward decided retirement sounded nice. "We're helping with his pension fund." Translation: they'd threatened the man's family, then paid him enough to make cooperation more appealing than resistance. Dante felt the familiar numbness that accompanied such transactions. There was a time when these decisions had cost him sleep. Now they were simply items on a checklist. Good, what else? Vincent hesitated, which immediately sharpened Dante's attention. His consigliere didn't hesitate unless the news was either very bad or very personal. Your sister called again. She wants to know if you're coming to Marco's birthday party next week. Dante's jaw tightened. Marco, his nephew, 8 years old now, the same age Dante's daughter would have been if she'd lived past her first birthday. Tell Gianna I'll send a gift. Boss, she's worried about you. Says you haven't visited in 6 months. I've been busy, she says. Vincent stopped, clearly weighing his words. She says you're disappearing, that the work is eating you alive, and pretty soon there won't be anything left. Dante stood abruptly, moving to the window that overlooked Mulberry Street. Below, tourists wandered through Little Italy, taking photos and buying overpriced cannoli, oblivious to the fact that real power in this neighborhood operated in rooms like this one. My sister should focus on her own family and let me handle mine. You don't have a family, boss. Not anymore. The words landed like a punch. Dante's reflection in the window showed a man who looked older than 38, harder than he'd intended to become. When had the lines around his eyes deepened? When had his expression settled into this permanent mask of calculated coldness? He thought of his daughter, sometimes Isabella, who'd lived for exactly 43 days before SIDS took her in the night. He thought of his ex-wife, Sophia, who'd blamed him for working too much, for not being there, for building an empire while their baby slept and died. She'd left 8 years ago and remarried some accountant in New Jersey. Had 2 more kids. A normal life. Dante had thrown himself into work, made the Moretti name mean something, built his fortune on the backs of people who feared him and the cooperation of people he'd bought. And somewhere along the way, he'd stopped feeling much of anything at all. Set up the meeting with Calabrese, he said finally, his voice flat. If they want war over the ports, we'll give them war. But try the diplomatic route first. Offer them a cut that's generous enough to make cooperation seem smart. And if they refuse, then we remind them why people don't refuse the Moretti family. Vincent stood to leave, then paused at the door. Boss, when was the last time you did something that wasn't about the business? Dante turned to look at him. What? When did you last do something just because it was? I don't know. Good? Right? Something that didn't involve profit or power or get out. Vincent left without another word, closing the door quietly behind him. Dante stood alone in the office, surrounded by the trappings of his success, the expensive furniture, the original artwork, the safe behind the false wall containing enough cash to fund a small country, and felt nothing. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister. Marco asks about you. Wants to know when Uncle Dante is coming to visit. What should I tell him? Dante stared at the message for a long moment, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. What could he say? That Uncle Dante was too busy laundering money and intimidating witnesses? That Uncle Dante had turned into exactly the kind of man his own father had been powerful, feared, and utterly alone? He turned off his phone without responding. The bus ride to Cathedral Heights took 90 minutes and 2 transfers. Emma chattered the entire time, creating elaborate stories about the whir of the Brund. If Wallet's owner, maybe he was a prince, or a spy, or a veterinarian who rescued endangered animals. Maya let her daughter's imagination flow while her own mind circled darker territories. Every block they traveled felt like moving further into a world that didn't belong to them. The neighborhoods shifted from the worn familiarity of their own area to progressively cleaner streets, bigger houses, fewer people lingering on corners. By the time they reached Cathedral Heights, Maya felt completely out of place. The houses here were actual mansions, set back from tree-lined streets behind iron gates and manicured hedges. She checked the address on the driver's license again. 1247 Blackstone Avenue. Mommy, look. Emma pointed at a house that looked like something from a movie. 3 stories of gray stone and tall windows, with a circular driveway and what appeared to be actual statues flanking the entrance. That's not it, baby. But Maya's stomach sank as she checked the numbers. The next house was 1245, which meant, oh wow. Emma's eyes grew huge as they approached 1247. The Moretti house made the neighbors look modest by comparison. It sprawled across what must have been a double lot, all dark brick and Gothic architecture, with a garden visible through the gate that probably cost more to maintain than Maya's annual salary. Maybe we should just mail it, Maya said weakly. No. Emma was already pushing through the pedestrian gate beside the main driveway. We came all this way. Maya followed her daughter up a stone path toward the front entrance, feeling increasingly like they were trespassing in someone else's life. When Emma reached for the doorbell, Maya almost stopped her. Then she thought of the $247 in her checking account, of the 6 to 8 month prognosis, of all the reasons she'd come this far. Emma pressed the button, and somewhere inside, a chime echoed. They waited. Maya was just starting to hope no one was home when the door opened. The man who answered wasn't Dante Moretti. This man was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a suit that screamed security or bodyguard. His eyes swept over them with professional assessment, lingering on Emma before settling on Maya with a mix of suspicion and confusion. Can I help you? We're looking for Dante Moretti, Maya said, fighting to keep her voice steady. We found his wallet and wanted to return it. The man's expression shifted subtly. Wait here. He closed the door, leaving them standing on the porch. Emma grabbed Maya's hand, suddenly shy now that the adventure had become real. It's okay, baby, Maya whispered, though her own heart was pounding. The door opened again. This time, Dante Moretti himself stood in the doorway. The photo on his license hadn't captured it, that presence, that intensity. He was tall, maybe 6'2", wearing dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His dark eyes fixed on Maya with an attention that made her feel simultaneously seen and dissected. Vincent said, "You have my wallet." His voice was deep, controlled, with the faintest trace of an accent that suggested Italian heritage a generation or two back. Yes, Maya started, but Emma was already stepping forward. I found it. She held up the wallet like a prize. In the trash can at the hospital. Someone must have thrown it away by accident. But I saw it and I knew someone would be worried, and my daddy always said we should do the right thing even when it's hard. So we came all the way here on 2 buses to bring it back to you. She said it all in one breathless rush, smiling up at Dante with absolute guileless joy. For just a moment, something cracked in Dante Moretti's expression. His eyes dropped to Emma, and Maya saw surprise there. Then something that looked almost like pain before his features shuddered again into careful neutrality. You came all this way just to return a wallet? He asked, but he was still looking at Emma. Well, yeah. Emma's tone suggested this should be obvious. It's yours, and there's money in it. That's important to keep safe. Dante's gaze finally lifted to Maya. Is this your daughter? Yes. Emma, this is Mr. Moretti. Mr. Moretti, I apologize for just showing up. But Emma insisted on delivering it in person. And you could have kept the money. He said it flatly. A statement rather than an accusation. I wouldn't have known. Heat flooded Maya's cheeks. We don't steal. Most people do. When the opportunity presents itself. We're not most people. Something flickered in his eyes, interest maybe, or reassessment. He opened the wallet, checking its contents with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd counted money too many times to need much effort. Everything was there. The cash, the cards, his license. What's your name? He asked, and it took Maya a moment to realize he was addressing her. Maya Castellano. This is Emma. Hi, Emma waved, a ghost of a smile. Touched Dante's mouth, gone so fast Maya almost missed it. Wait here. He disappeared into the house, leaving the door half open. Through the gap, Maya caught glimpses of dark wood paneling, expensive art on the walls, a life so far removed from her own it might as well exist on another planet. He seems nice, Emma whispered. A little serious, but nice. Before Maya could respond, Dante returned holding a money clip. He counted out $500 bills and held them out to her. For your trouble and your honesty. Maya's hand twitched toward the money. God, $500 would buy groceries for a month, would pay the electric bill, would mean Emma could have new shoes, but she forced herself to step back. We didn't do it for a reward. I'm not offering a reward. I'm expressing gratitude. The answer is still no. Maya's voice came out harder than intended. Emma did a good thing because it was right, not because she expected payment. I won't teach her that honesty is transactional. Dante studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. You're refusing $500. Yes, even though you clearly need it. The observation stung because it was true and obvious. Maya was aware of how she and Emma must look worn clothes, Emma's too big jacket, Maya's own exhaustion probably written across her face. Especially because we need it, she said quietly. Emma needs to know that some things matter more than money. For the first time since the door had opened, Dante Moretti looked genuinely surprised. He stood there holding the cash, clearly unused to people refusing anything he offered. Emma tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Mommy, we should go. We have to catch the bus before it gets dark." "Right. Yes." Maya took her daughter's hand. "We should let you get back to your day, Mr. Moretti. I'm glad we could return your wallet." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Wait. Where did you say you found it?" "County Medical Center." Emma piped up. "In the trash by the entrance. Were you visiting someone?" "I had a meeting there. With the hospital board." He paused. "What were you doing there?" The question felt too personal, too invasive. Maya's spine stiffened. "That's private." Understanding flickered across his face, followed by something that might have been concern. His eyes tracked the way Maya held herself, the careful way she moved, the protective hand she kept on Emma's shoulder. "Thank you for returning my property," he said finally. "It was kind of you. Both of you." "You're welcome," Emma beamed. "Have a good day, Mr. Moretti." As they walked back down the stone path, Maya felt his eyes on her back. When she glanced over her shoulder, he was still standing in the doorway, watching them with an intensity that made something cold slither down her spine. On the bus ride home, Emma fell asleep against her shoulder, exhausted from their adventure. Maya stared out the window as the neighborhoods shifted, back toward familiar poverty, and tried to shake the feeling that returning that wallet had been a mistake. She didn't know that at that exact moment, Dante Moretti was sitting in his office, making a phone call. "Vincent, I need you to find out everything about Maya Castellano. Everything. Where she lives, where she works, why she was at County Medical. I want a full report by tomorrow morning. Boss, is this... Just do it." Dante hung up and stared at the wallet sitting on his desk. Inside, everything was accounted for. $2,800 in cash that could have changed that woman's life, and she'd walked away from it. When was the last time someone had surprised him? When was the last time he'd met someone who chose principle over survival? He thought of the little girl's smile, of the way she'd talked about her daddy teaching her to do the right thing, of the mother's fierce pride despite clearly drowning in circumstances she couldn't control. And for the first time in 8 years, Dante Moretti felt something other than numbness. He felt curious. That curiosity, he would later realize, was the most dangerous thing that had happened to him in a very long time. Maya stood outside Romano Tower for the second time in 3 days, but this visit was nothing like the first. Then, she'd been returning something. Now, she was demanding answers. The security guard at the front desk looked up as she approached, his expression shifting from bored to alert. "Can I help you? I need to see Dante Moretti." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell him Maya Castellano is here. He'll see me." The guard's eyebrows rose slightly. He picked up his phone, spoke quietly into it, then looked at her with poorly concealed surprise. 32nd floor. Mr. Moretti is expecting you." Of course he was. The elevator ride felt both too long and too short. Maya had rehearsed what she'd say, angry, firm, demanding answers, but now that she was actually here, her resolve was crumbling. What was she doing? Confronting a man who had federal investigators trailing him? A man who could probably make her disappear with a phone call? But then she thought of Emma asking why the nice man from the big house had suddenly paid for Mommy's treatment, and Maya's spine straightened. She needed answers. Needed to understand what Dante Moretti wanted from her. The elevator doors opened directly into a reception area that screamed understated wealth. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expensive suit stood immediately. "Miss Castellano, Mr. Moretti is in his office. This way." Maya followed her down a hallway lined with what were probably original paintings. She recognized a style that might be a Rothko, which meant it cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes until they reached double doors at the end. The receptionist knocked once, then opened the door. "Miss Castellano, sir." Dante Moretti stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, his back to the door. He wore dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the same casual power she remembered from their first meeting. "Thank you, Teresa." He didn't turn around. "Hold my calls." The door closed behind Maya with a soft click that sounded somehow final. "I wondered how long it would take you to come." Dante's voice was calm, unsurprised. "Vincent bet on yesterday. I said you'd need a day to process." "You paid my medical bills." Maya didn't bother with pleasantries. "The second chance initiative that miraculously appeared overnight. The anonymous donor that was you." "Yes." The simple admission somehow made it worse. No deflection, no excuses. Just yes. Why? Dante finally turned to face her. In the morning light streaming through the windows, he looked less like the cold crime boss from the photos and more like a man carrying exhaustion he'd learned to hide. Because you were dying and couldn't afford treatment. That's not an answer. You don't know me. Emma returned. Your wallet, and we refused a reward that doesn't obligate you to pay $300,000 in medical bills. You're right. It doesn't obligate me. He moved to his desk, gesturing to the chairs. Sit. I'd rather stand. A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. Of course you would. He sat anyway, studying her with that same intense focus she remembered. I had you investigated after you left. Standard procedure when someone shows up at my house. Standard procedure for a criminal, you mean? If the accusation bothered him, it didn't show. The report came back yesterday morning. It included your diagnosis. Maya's hands clenched at her sides. So you decided to play God? Swoop in and save the dying woman because you felt sorry for her? No. I decided to help someone who needed it. Why? Maya stepped closer, anger overriding caution. People need help every day. Why me? What do you want from me? Nothing. Bullshit. The word came out sharper than she intended. I looked you up, Mr. Moretti. I read about the federal investigations, the racketeering allegations, the business empire built on intimidation. Men like you don't do anything without expecting something in return. Dante's expression hardened slightly. You're right. In my world, everything is transactional. But that's precisely why your daughter's action struck me. She did something good without expecting anything. Her mother raised her that way, even while drowning in circumstances that would have justified bitterness or compromise. He stood, moving around the desk. So I made a choice. To help without demanding payment. To do something that wasn't about power or profit. To prove to myself that I'm still capable of an act of simple decency. That's a very expensive midlife crisis. I'm 38. Hardly midlife. You know what I mean. Maya refused to be charmed by the deflection. This isn't about being decent, Mr. Moretti. This is about control. You've put me in a position where I'm indebted to you, whether I agreed to it or not. Then consider the debt paid by your daughter's honesty. We're even. We're not even. Maya's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. You've given me my life back, which means I owe you everything. And she gestured at him, at the office, at everything he represented. You're a criminal. How am I supposed to accept this? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Would you rather die? The question hung in the air like a blade. That's not fair, Maya whispered. It's the only question that matters. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. I understand your principles, Maya. I respect them. But your daughter is 9 years old. In 8 months, if you refuse treatment, she'll be an orphan. Is your pride worth that? Tears burned behind Maya's eyes. Don't use Emma against me. I'm not using her. I'm reminding you what's at stake. His voice gentled further. You think I haven't noticed how much she looks like you? How she has your determination? Your goodness? That little girl deserves her mother, and you deserve the chance to raise her. Why do you care? The question came out broken. Why does it matter to you what happens to us? Dante turned away, returning to the window. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, I had a daughter once. Isabella. She died when she was 43 days old. SIDS. I wasn't there. I was at a meeting, building my empire while my baby stopped breathing. Maya's anger drained away, replaced by something uncomfortably close to empathy. My wife left me after that. Said I cared more about power than family. She was right. Dante's reflection in the window looked haunted. I threw myself into work, built everything you read about in those articles. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to care about anything beyond profit and territory. He turned back to her. Then your daughter ran up to me with my wallet, smiling like returning it was the most important thing in the world. And she was the age Isabella would be now. And I felt something I thought was dead. Maya's throat tightened. So, this is about replacing your daughter. No, this is about remembering I'm still human enough to help someone who needs it. Dante moved closer. Accept the treatment, Maya. Let me do this one good thing. It doesn't obligate you to anything. It doesn't make you indebted. It just means you get to live. Maya wanted to believe him. wanted to accept that this was simple generosity, that she could take the treatment and walk away clean. But she'd spent enough years navigating the world's cruelties to know that nothing was ever that simple. "I need to think," she said finally. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Dante pulled a card from his desk drawer and held it out. "My private number. When you decide, call me." Maya took the card, their fingers briefly touching. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her, and she pulled away quickly. "I should go. Emma's at school and I need to pick her up." "Maya," she paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I mean what I said. You owe me nothing. This is a gift, freely given." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But as she rode the elevator down and walked out into the morning sun, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that accepting Dante Moretti's help would change everything in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Vincent was waiting when Dante returned to his office after Maya left. "Well?" "She's conflicted, angry, suspicious." Dante sat at his desk, the space where Maya had stood still, seeming to hold her presence. "But she'll accept. She has to. And then what?" "Then she gets treatment and lives." Vincent crossed his arms. "Boss, I've known you 15 years. I've never seen you do something without an angle. What's really going on here?" Dante was quiet for a, "Do you remember what I was like before Isabella died?" The question surprised Vincent. "You were different. Softer, maybe. Less human?" "I was going to say less ruthless, but yeah. I want to feel like that again." Dante stood, moving to the window where he seemed to spend most of his time lately. "I want to do something that isn't about expansion or profit or breaking someone who threatened us. I want to help someone who deserves it and ask for nothing in return." "That's not how our world works." "Then maybe our world is wrong." Vincent sighed. "The other families are going to see this as weakness. You're already restructuring operations, pulling back from some territories. Now you're spending money on charity cases? Marco's already spreading rumors that you've gone soft. Let him. Boss, I mean it, Vincent. Let him spread whatever rumors he wants. Let the families think I've lost my edge. Maybe I have." Dante turned back to his consigliere. "Or maybe I've finally found something worth caring about besides power." Vincent studied him for a long moment. "You're falling for her." "I barely know her." "That's not a denial." It wasn't, because Dante couldn't deny that something about Maya Castellano had lodged under his skin. The fierce way she'd confronted him, the love for her daughter that overrode even her own survival instincts, the principles she refused to compromise despite drowning in circumstances that should have broken her. "I'm not falling for her," Dante said finally. "I'm interested in who she is. There's a difference." "Is there?" Vincent moved to the door. "Just be careful, boss. Women like her, good women, they don't survive in our world. You bring her into this, you're signing her death warrant." After Vincent left, Dante sat alone with the truth of those words. His world was violence and shadows, and compromises that eroded everything good they touched. Maya Castellano was light, and principles and fierce maternal love. Mixing the two was dangerous. But Dante had spent 8 years playing it safe, building walls, keeping everyone at a distance, and it had left him hollow. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Maya picked up Emma from school in a daze, her daughter's cheerful chatter about art class and recess barely penetrating the fog of her thoughts. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emma asked as they walked toward the bus stop. "You look sad." "I'm fine, baby. Just thinking." "About the treatment?" Emma's voice went small. "Are you going to get better now?" Maya stopped walking and knelt down to her daughter's level. "Come here." Emma collapsed into her arms, and Maya held her tight, breathing in the scent of her daughter's strawberry shampoo and the indefinable smell that was just Emma. "I'm going to do everything I can to get better," Maya whispered. "I promise. Because I need you, Mommy." "I can't." Emma's voice broke. "I don't want you to go away like Daddy did." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. She'd tried so hard to shield Emma from the fear, to pretend everything would be fine. But children knew. They always knew. "I'm not going anywhere, baby. Not if I can help it." That night, after Emma was asleep, Maya sat at their tiny kitchen table with Dante's card in front of her. The private number was embossed in elegant script, of course it was. She thought about his face when he'd mentioned his daughter, the raw pain that had flickered across his features before he'd hidden it again, the way he'd said, "I want to feel like that again," like he'd spent years being something he hated. Maybe he was using her to assuage guilt. Maybe this was all some elaborate manipulation she couldn't see yet. Maybe accepting help from a criminal would compromise everything she believed in. But Emma was sleeping in the next room. Emma, who deserved her mother, who deserved more than 8 months before her world ended. Maya picked up her phone and dialed before she could change her mind. Dante answered on the second ring. Maya, I'll accept the treatment. The words came out steady despite her shaking hands. But I need you to understand something. This doesn't mean I trust you. This doesn't mean I owe you anything beyond gratitude. And if you try to use this against me or Emma in any way, I will find a way to destroy you. A pause. Then, quietly. Fair enough. I'm serious, Mr. Moretti. I might be desperate, but I'm not stupid. I know what you are, and I won't let that touch my daughter. I wouldn't expect anything less. His voice held something that might have been respect. The hospital wants to start your treatment next week. They'll call with the schedule. Okay. Maya's throat tightened. Thank you. I don't like saying it, but thank you. You're welcome. Get some rest, Maya. You have a long road ahead. After hanging up, Maya sat in the dark kitchen for a long time, wondering if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the worst. She didn't know that at that exact moment, Dante Moretti was sitting in his office, staring at his phone, feeling something he hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope. And in a shadowy office across the city, a man named Marco DeLucci was reviewing surveillance photos of Maya Castellano and her daughter, his expression calculating. Dante Moretti had a weakness now, and in their world, weaknesses were meant to be exploited. The chemotherapy started the following Tuesday. Maya sat in a chair in the oncology center's infusion room, poison dripping into her veins while Emma sat beside her doing homework. The nurse had explained the side effects: nausea, fatigue, hair loss, mouth sores, with practiced sympathy. The first few sessions would be rough, she'd said, but the body adapted. Maya felt numb. Not from the drugs yet, but from the surreal nature of it all. 3 weeks ago, she'd been told she was dying and couldn't afford treatment. Now she sat in a private infusion room, apparently the Second Chance Initiative, included premium care while $340,000 worth of medicine tried to save her life, all because she'd returned a wallet. Mommy, what's 12 times 7? Emma asked, pencil poised over her math worksheet. 84, baby. Are you sure? That seems really big. Despite everything. Maya smiled. I'm sure. Show me your work. Emma scribbled numbers, her tongue poking out in concentration, and Maya watched her with fierce love. This was why she'd accepted Dante's help. This moment. This ordinary Tuesday afternoon doing homework while fighting for her life. For Emma. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. How's the first session going? Maya stared at it. Dante. It had to be. She'd given the hospital her number for appointment reminders, and somehow he'd gotten it. Of course he had. She should have been angry about the privacy invasion. Instead, she found herself typing back. Poison is about as fun as expected. Emma says hi. Emma looked up. Who says hi to me? Just someone from the hospital checking in. The lie came easier than it should have. 3 bubbles appeared. Then, tell Emma I said hello back. And that doing homework while her mom gets treatment makes her very brave. Maya's throat tightened. She showed Emma the message, watching her daughter's face light up. Is that Mr. Moretti? The wallet man? How did you... Maya stopped. Of course Emma had figured it out. Yes, it's Mr. Moretti. He's nice. Emma grabbed the phone and typed with her 2-finger hunt and peck method. Thank you for helping my mommy. She's the best mommy, and she needs to get better. Before Maya could stop her, Emma hit send. Baby, you can't just... But it was done. The response came quickly. Your mommy is lucky to have you. Be good and let her rest. She's fighting hard for you. Emma beamed. See? Nice. Maya took her phone back, not sure what to say. She settled on, you didn't have to check in. I wanted to. Rest. You'll need it. The conversation ended there, but Maya found herself staring at the messages long after Emma had returned to her homework. There was something almost gentle in Dante's texts, a carefulness that contradicted everything she knew about him, or thought she knew. Dante sat in a meeting with his accountants, supposedly reviewing quarterly reports, but his mind was elsewhere. On a woman in an infusion chair, poison fighting the poison in her cells. On a little girl doing homework beside her mother, not understanding the full weight of what was happening but being brave anyway. Mr. Moretti? His accountant, Gerald, looked at him expectantly. The offshore accounts? Approved. Move forward with the restructuring. After the meeting, Vincent cornered him in the hallway. You're texting her? Who told you that? You have a very specific expression when you're messaging someone you care about. Haven't seen it in years, but I recognize it. Dante didn't dignify that with a response. Boss, seriously, what's the plan here? You pay her bills, check in on her treatment, and then what? She gets better and goes back to her life, and you go back to yours? You think it works that way? I don't have a plan, Vincent. I'm just... Dante stopped, searching for the right word. Present. Vincent repeated the word like it was foreign. You run a criminal empire. You can't afford to be present for some woman you barely know. Watch me. The other families are noticing. Calabrese made comments at the port negotiations. They think you're distracted. Let them think what they want. Vincent grabbed his arm, forcing Dante to stop and look at him. Listen to me. In our world, distractions get people killed. You care about this woman? Fine. But that makes her a target. Every enemy you have will see her as leverage. Is that what you want? Dante pulled away. Then I protect her. You can't protect everyone all the time. You know that. Then I'll fail trying. But I won't walk away. Vincent stared at him for a long moment. You're really serious about this? Yes. Then you need to be smart about it. Increase security on her building. Put someone on her daughter's school. Monitor threats. Because the minute the wrong people figure out she matters to you, they'll use her to destroy you. Dante nodded slowly. Do it. Quietly. After Vincent left, Dante returned to his office and pulled up the security feed he'd had installed near Maya's apartment building. Not inside, he drew that line, but outside, watching for threats. He found the angle that showed the bus stop where Maya and Emma would return that evening. Empty now, just another piece of city infrastructure. But in a few hours, a mother and daughter would step off that bus, walk 3 blocks to their rundown building, and go about their lives unaware that they were being watched. Protected, whether they wanted to be or not. Dante's phone buzzed. His sister Gianna, Marco's party is Saturday at 2 p.m. Please come. He asks about you every day. Dante stared at the message. His nephew's 8th birthday, the same age Emma was now. 9, technically, but close enough that the parallel was uncomfortable. He typed back, I'll be there. The response was immediate. Really? Don't lie to me, Dante. I promise. I'll be there. 3 dots then. Thank you. He'll be so happy. And Dante? Whatever's changed in you lately. I like it. You seem almost human again. Dante smiled despite himself. Don't get used to it. But the truth was, something had changed. And it terrified him almost as much as it gave him hope. 3 days after her first chemotherapy session, Maya woke up violently ill. She barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting, her body rejecting the poison that was supposed to save her. Wave after wave of nausea hit her, until she was shaking and weak, pressed against the cool tile floor. Mommy? Emma's small voice came from the doorway. Are you okay? I'm fine, baby. Just give me a minute. But she wasn't fine. She was so weak she could barely stand, her whole body aching like she had the flu times 1,000. This was what the nurse had warned about. The treatment was working, but it felt like dying. Should I call someone? Emma asked, her voice small and frightened. No, I just need... Another wave of nausea cut off her words. She heard Emma's feet padding away, then muffled conversation. Had her daughter called 911? Mrs. Chen from down the hall? Then Dante Moretti's voice. Emma, I need you to be very brave, okay? Can you let me in? Maya's eyes flew open. What? Footsteps. The bathroom door pushed wider. And there was Dante Moretti, in her tiny apartment, kneeling beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. What are you... She couldn't finish. Another wave hit. Dante grabbed a washcloth from the rack, ran it under cold water, and pressed it to the back of her neck. Emma called me. The nurse gave her my number for emergencies. That's not I didn't authorize. Breathe, Maya. Just breathe. His hand was steady on her back, his voice calm. Maya wanted to be angry about the invasion of privacy, about him being in her apartment, about everything. But she was too sick and too tired, and his presence was somehow steadying. I'm going to pick you up now, Dante said quietly. Don't argue. You need to be in bed, not on the bathroom floor. I can walk. You can barely sit up. He was right. Maya hated that he was right. Dante lifted her as easily as if she weighed nothing, carrying her to the bedroom god, He was seeing her shabby apartment with its second-hand furniture and peeling wallpaper, and setting her carefully on the bed. Emma hovered in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Is Mommy going to be okay?" "She's going to be fine," Dante said with more certainty than Maya felt. "This is normal after chemotherapy. Her body is fighting hard, and that makes her feel sick. But it means the medicine is working." He said it so confidently that even Maya almost believed it. "Emma, baby, I need you to do something for me," Maya managed. "Go to Mrs. Chen's apartment. Tell her I'm sick and ask if you can stay with her for a few hours." "But Mommy, please, Emma. I'll be okay." Emma looked between her mother and Dante, clearly uncertain, but finally she nodded and left, her small footsteps echoing down the hallway. Maya closed her eyes. "You need to leave. Not until you can keep water down and I know you're stable. This isn't your responsibility." "I'm making it my responsibility." Dante pulled the chair from her tiny desk and sat beside the bed. "When's the last time you ate?" "Yesterday. Maybe. I can't remember. The nausea will be worse on an empty stomach. I'm going to make you toast. Something bland to settle your system. I don't have bread." Dante's expression flickered surprise. "Maybe. Or concern. What do you have?" "Cereal? Some canned soup." Emma ate the last of the bread yesterday for breakfast. He pulled out his phone, typed something. "Vincent's bringing groceries. Toast, ginger ale, crackers. Things that'll help with the nausea." "I don't want your charity." "Then call it an investment in making sure you don't end up in the ER, which would be expensive and uncomfortable." His voice softened. "Let me help, Maya. You're sick. Your daughter is frightened. And I happen to be here. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be." Maya was too exhausted to argue. She lay back against the pillows when had Dante adjusted them, and closed her eyes. "Why did the nurse give Emma your number?" "I asked her to. In case something happened and you needed help." "That's overstepping." "Probably. But I'd rather overstep than have you suffering alone because you're too proud to ask for help." Maya wanted to be angry. She really did. But another wave of nausea was building, and Dante was already there with the washcloth, cool and steady against her neck. "This is humiliating," she whispered. "This is human." His voice was gentle. "You're fighting for your life, Maya. There's no shame in needing help." Through the fog of sickness, Maya felt something shift. This dangerous man, this criminal she should fear, was taking care of her with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd read about him. And despite every logical reason to push him away, Maya found herself grateful he was there. Vincent arrived 30 minutes later with 2 bags of groceries and an expression of barely concealed concern. "Boss, we have the Castellano meeting at 4. Reschedule." "We can't. They flew in from Boston specifically. Then you handle it." Dante took the bags. "I'm staying here." Vincent glanced past him into the apartment, taking in the shabby furniture and peeling paint. Then his eyes found Dante's face, and whatever he saw there made him nod. "I'll handle it. But boss, Marco's asking questions. About where you are, who you're with. He's been watching you." "Let him watch. That's what I'm afraid of." Vincent lowered his voice. "If he figures out she matters to you, I know the risks." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're sitting in a dying woman's apartment playing nurse while your empire runs itself. That's not like you." "Maybe it should be." Vincent studied him for a long moment. "You're really in deep here, aren't you?" Dante didn't answer. He didn't need to. After Vincent left, Dante returned to find Maya asleep, her face pale against the pillows. He moved quietly, unpacking groceries in her tiny kitchen, noting the near-empty cabinets and mostly bare refrigerator. She was barely surviving even before the diagnosis, and she'd still refused his $500. The stubbornness should have annoyed him. Instead, it made him respect her more. He made toast when she woke, brought her ginger ale, sat beside the bed while she tried to keep down small bites. Emma returned after a few hours, hovering anxiously until Dante reassured her that her mother was improving. "Can you stay for dinner?" Emma asked him. "We have soup, and Mommy always says it's better when there's someone to eat with." Dante glanced at Maya, who looked too tired to protest. "I'd like that," he said. They ate canned soup at Maya's rickety kitchen table, Emma chattering about school while Maya picked at her food. It was possibly the most humble meal Dante had eaten in years. It was also, somehow, one of the best. Because across the table, Maya Castellano looked at him with wary gratitude, and beside him, Emma smiled with the kind of innocent acceptance he'd forgotten existed. And for the first time in 8 years, Dante Moretti felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Even if it was in a crumbling apartment in the Bronx, eating dollar store soup with people who should have been strangers. His phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. "Marco knows. Be careful." Dante deleted the message and smiled at Emma's story about her art teacher. He'd deal with Marco later. Right now, he had soup to finish and a little girl to make laugh. The consequences could wait. The guardianship papers arrived on a Thursday morning. Maya was having a good day, relatively speaking. The second round of chemotherapy had been easier than the first, and she'd managed to keep down breakfast. She was even considering going back to work part-time, though her doctor had advised against it. Emma had already left for school, dropped off by Mrs. Chen, who'd taken on more childcare duties since Maya started treatment. Maya was alone when the knock came at her door. A courier stood in the hallway, holding a manila envelope. "Maya Castellano?" "Yes. Sign here, please." Maya signed, took the envelope and closed the door. The return address made her stomach drop. Moretti Legal Services, LLP. With shaking hands, she opened it. Petition for temporary guardianship in the matter of Emma Sofia Castellano, minor child. Maya's vision blurred as she read. The document was dense with legal language, but the core was crystal clear. Dante Moretti was petitioning the court for temporary guardianship of Emma, citing Maya's medical condition and inability to provide adequate care during treatment. The petition outlined everything. Maya's cancer diagnosis, her limited income, the inadequate living conditions, the 3 months of back rent. It painted a picture of a mother who was drowning, unable to care for her child while fighting a terminal illness. It was all true, and it was devastating. Attached was a second document, a proposed care plan. Emma would live with Dante in his Cathedral Heights home. She would attend a private school. She would have round-the-clock care, tutors, everything she needed. Maya would have unlimited visitation rights and would retain all parental authority for major decisions. The guardianship would last only as long as Maya's treatment continued. Once she was in remission, custody would revert fully to her. If she achieved remission. At the bottom, a handwritten note in strong, angular script. "Maya, I know how this looks. I know you'll be angry. But please read the petition carefully before you react. This isn't about taking Emma from you. It's about protecting her while you fight for your life. You're getting sicker. The treatment will get harder before it gets better. Emma needs stability you can't provide right now. She needs security, education, care, and she needs her mother to focus on surviving instead of worrying about keeping a roof over her head. I'm offering guardianship, not adoption. You remain her mother, always. I'm simply providing what you can't while you heal. Call me, please." Maya read the documents 3 times, her hands shaking harder with each pass. He'd investigated her again, had documented every failure, every shortcoming, every way she was barely holding on, and he'd used it to build a case for why her daughter would be better off in his care. The worst part? He was right. Maya looked around her apartment, the peeling wallpaper, the furniture held together with hope and determination, the kitchen where cabinets sat mostly empty because she couldn't afford to fill them. She thought about the nights Emma went to bed with only cereal for dinner, the times she'd had to choose between electricity and groceries, the crumbling school in their neighborhood where fights broke out weekly and teachers were too overwhelmed to notice. Emma deserved better. But accepting this meant watching a stranger raise her daughter, meant admitting she'd failed as a mother, meant letting Dante Moretti, a criminal, a man she barely knew, have legal authority over the most precious thing in her world. Maya's phone was in her hand before she'd consciously decided to call him. He answered immediately. "Maya, you son of a bitch." Her voice shook with rage and tears. "You investigated me again. You documented every failure, every how dare you. I had to build a precedent, case that would hold up in court. A case against me, against my ability to parent my own daughter. A case for why Emma needs additional support." His voice was calm, infuriatingly reasonable. "Maya, listen to me." "No, you listen. I'm her mother. I've kept her fed and clothed and safe for 9 years on my own. I've worked 2 jobs, sold everything I had, sacrificed everything, and you think you can just swoop in and take her because you have money? I'm not taking her. I'm offering to help. By getting legal custody? That's not help, that's control. It's protection." For the first time, emotion cracked through Dante's calm. "You're getting sicker, Maya. Next week is your 3rd session, and it's going to be worse than the first 2. The one after that will be even harder. You can barely get out of bed some days. How are you going to take care of a 9-year-old? I'll manage. I always manage. At what cost? His voice softened. Emma's seen you vomit until you couldn't. Upstand. She's watched you shake from weakness. She's terrified, Maya. I can hear it in her voice when she calls me. Maya's breath caught. She calls you? 3, 4 times a week. She asks if I think you're getting better. If the medicine is working. He stopped. She's scared she's going to lose you. And she's 9 years old. She shouldn't have to carry that fear alone. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. So your solution is to take her away from me? My solution is to give her stability while you fight. To give you the freedom to focus on treatment without worrying about rent or food or keeping up appearances for Emma's sake. To give her a childhood that isn't defined by watching her mother suffer. In your house, with you. A man she barely knows. A man who cares about her well-being. Who has the resources to give her everything she needs. Who, Dante paused, who understands what it's like to lose someone and wants to prevent that for her. Maya sank onto her couch, the papers crumpling in her fist. I can't do this. I can't just hand her over. You're not handing her over. You're accepting help. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like you using my desperation to take my daughter. If I wanted to take her, I'd file for permanent custody and use my lawyers to bury you. Dante's voice was hard now. I have documentation of financial instability, inadequate housing, inability to provide basic necessities. I could build a case that would destroy you in family court. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think. Then think about Emma. Not about your pride or your fear or what this means for you. Think about what's best for your daughter. The line went quiet. Maya could hear her own ragged breathing, could feel the weight of the papers in her hand. I need time, she whispered finally. You have until Monday. That's when the petition gets filed. Dante's voice softened. Maya, I know I'm asking the impossible. I know every instinct you have is screaming to refuse. But please consider what this could mean for Emma. And for you. After he hung up, Maya sat in the silence of her apartment for hours. The papers spread across her lap. Outside her window, the city carried on. People went to work, lived their lives, made choices that didn't feel like choosing between drowning and losing everything. Maya thought about Emma's face when she'd come home from school yesterday, how she'd hugged Maya extra tight and whispered, I love you, Mommy. Please don't leave me. She thought about the 3rd chemotherapy session next week, how the doctor had warned it would be the hardest yet. She thought about her empty refrigerator and the eviction notice she'd hidden in a drawer, and the way Emma had started rationing her school lunches, saving half to bring home because she knew food was scarce. And she thought about Dante Moretti, who'd paid her medical bills and checked on her, treatment, and shown up when she was sick, and made soup with Emma like it was the most natural thing in the world. A criminal, a dangerous man, someone she should keep far away from her daughter, but also someone who'd looked at Emma with genuine care, who'd been gentle when Maya was at her weakest, who was offering a lifeline even as it felt like drowning. Maya pulled out her phone and called the one person she trusted to tell her the truth. Hello? Mrs. Chen's voice was warm, familiar. Mrs. Chen, it's Maya. I need advice. Dante didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, staring at the city lights, replaying Maya's anger and hurt in his mind. He'd known she'd react badly, had prepared for it, but hearing the betrayal in her voice had been worse than expected. You look like hell, Vincent said from the doorway. Come to lecture me? Actually, no. Vincent moved into the office, closing the door. I think you're doing the right thing. Dante's head snapped up. What? I've been watching the surveillance feeds. The kid walks home from school in a neighborhood where shootings happen weekly. Their building has no security anyone could walk in. Last week, Maya collapsed in the hallway, and some random neighbor had to help her inside. Vincent sat down. The woman is dying, boss, or fighting like hell not to die. Either way, she can't care for a kid right now. So you agree with the guardianship? I think it's the kindest thing you could do, even if she can't see it yet. Vincent paused. But there's a problem. Of course there is. Marco's been asking questions about where you've been spending time, about unusual financial transactions like $340,000 to a hospital charity fund, about a woman and her kid from the Bronx. Dante's jaw tightened. How much does he know? Enough to be dangerous. He's putting together pieces. And when he figures out Emma matters to you. Vincent didn't need to finish the sentence. In their world, leverage was currency, and a 9-year-old girl was perfect leverage. Increase security, Dante said. I want someone on Emma 24/7. Different faces, rotating shifts. Professional enough that Maya won't notice. Already done. But boss, if you go through with this guardianship, you're painting a target on that kid. You know that, right? Then I protect her better than I've protected anyone in my life. Vincent studied him for a long moment. You're really committed to this. To them. Yes, even though it's dangerous. Even though it could blow up in your face. Even though Marco and half the other families think you've lost your edge. Yes. Why? Dante thought about Emma's laugh. About Maya's fierce pride. About the way he'd felt making soup in that tiny kitchen, like he was part of something real instead of just powerful. Because for 8 years I've been sleepwalking through life, Vincent. Building empire, making money, destroying enemies, all of it felt empty. Then, a 9-year-old girl returned my wallet with a smile that reminded me what goodness looks like. And her mother refused my help because she wanted to teach the right lesson more than she wanted to survive. He turned to face his consigliere. I want to be near that. I want to protect it. And if that makes me weak in Marco's eyes, so be it. It doesn't make you weak, Vincent said quietly. It makes you human, which might be more dangerous in our world. After Vincent left, Dante pulled up the security feed showing Maya's building. Her lights were still on 2 a.m. and she was awake, probably agonizing over the decision he'd forced on her. He hated causing her pain, hated the betrayal he'd seen in her eyes. But he'd meant what he said. This was about protecting Emma, giving her stability while her mother fought for survival. And if Maya chose to hate him for it, Dante would accept that cost. As long as Emma was safe, as long as Maya had the freedom to focus on healing instead of surviving, everything else, it was secondary. Maya made her decision on Funday night. She'd spent 3 days agonizing, crying, raging against the impossible choice. Mrs. Chen had listened to everything, then said simply, that little girl needs her mother alive more than she needs her mother's pride intact. Elena, Maya's supervisor at work, had been more blunt. Take the help. Let the rich guy with the resources give Emma what you can't right now. You can hate him later. First, survive. But it was Emma who'd made the decision for her. Saturday morning, Emma had climbed into Maya's bed, a rare occurrence now that she was too old for such things, and curled against her mother's side. Mommy, if you have to go to the hospital for a long time for your treatment, where would I go? Maya's heart had clenched. What do you mean, baby? Mrs. Chen said sometimes people have to stay in the hospital when they're really sick. And I can't stay with her because she has to take care of her husband. So where would I go? The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of Emma's unspoken fear. What happens to me if you die? You'd be okay, Maya had whispered. Someone would take care of you. Who? Maya hadn't had an answer. She had no family close by, no friends with the resources to take in a child long term. If she died, Emma would go into foster care, would be shuffled between strangers, separated from everything familiar, lost in a system that rarely had happy endings. Now, Funday night, Maya sat at her kitchen table and called Dante. I'll sign, she said without preamble. But I have conditions. Name them. Emma knows I'm her mother. You don't try to replace me or make her call you dad or anything like that. You're her guardian. I'm her parent. Agreed. I get to see her every day. Every single day, Dante. No restrictions, no supervised visits, no limitations. Agreed. I'll have a car pick you up and bring you to the house whenever you want. Or Emma can visit you, if you're feeling well enough. I make all major decisions. School, medical care, everything important you consult me first. Of course. And when I'm in remission, this ends. Immediately. No fighting me, no lawyers, no arguments. She comes home. Absolutely. Maya's hands shook. Why are you agreeing to everything? Because this was never about control, Maya. It's about giving Emma stability and you peace of mind. I'm not trying to take her from you. I'm trying to help you keep her. Tears slipped down Maya's cheeks. I feel like I'm failing her. Like I'm admitting I can't take care of my own daughter. You're not failing. You're making an impossible choice because you love her more than your pride. Dante's voice was gentle. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing you could do. She's going to hate me. She's going to think I abandoned her. She's going to see her mother fighting to survive. And she's going to understand, maybe not now, but someday, that you did this because you love her. Maya wiped her eyes. When does this start? Whenever you're ready. The petition will be filed tomorrow, but there's a hearing in 2 weeks. You can bring Emma to the house before then. Let her get comfortable. Or we can wait until it's official. I want to tell her first. Explain it myself before you come into her life. Of course. After hanging up, Maya sat in the dark kitchen for a long time, trying to find the words to tell her daughter that their life was about to change forever. The conversation with Emma happened Monday after school. Maya had picked her up personally, a rare treat that made Emma suspicious immediately. Am I in trouble? Emma asked on the bus ride home. No, baby. We just need to talk about something important. Back at the apartment, Maya made hot chocolate, the cheap powdered kind, but Emma's favorite, and sat at the kitchen table with her daughter. Emma, you know Mommy's been sick. The cancer. Emma's voice was small. The medicine makes you throw up. Right. Well, the treatment is going to get harder before I get better. And while I'm fighting to get well, I need to make sure you're taken care of. Emma's eyes widened. Are you going away? No. No, baby, I'm not going anywhere. But Maya took a deep breath. Mr. Moretti, you remember him? The wallet man? The nice man with the big house? Yes. He's offered to let you stay with him for a little while, just until Mommy feels better. Emma's face crumpled. You're sending me away? I'm not sending you away. I'm making sure you're safe and happy while I get treatment. Mr. Moretti has a big house with lots of room. You'd have your own bedroom, go to a good school, have everything you need. I don't want everything. I want you. Emma's voice rose. I don't care about a big house or a good school. I want to stay here with you. Baby, please listen. No. Emma jumped up from the table. You promised. After Daddy died, you promised you'd never. Leave me. You promised. Emma. But her daughter was running to her room, slamming the door. Maya heard the muffled sound of crying and felt her heart shatter. She gave Emma space for an hour, then knocked softly on her door. Go away. Emma, please. Let me explain. You're giving me away because you don't want me anymore. Maya opened the door to find her daughter face down on her bed, sobbing into her pillow. She sat beside her, rubbing her back. Listen to me, baby girl. Look at me. Slowly, Emma turned over, her face red and blotchy. I'm not giving you away. I could never, ever give you away. You're the most important thing in my whole world. Maya brushed hair from Emma's face. But right now I'm sick, really sick. And taking care of you while I'm getting treatment, it's hard, baby. You've seen how hard. I don't care. I want to stay with you. I know. And you can visit me every single day. Every day, Emma. But at night, you'd sleep at Mr. Moretti's house where there's heat that always works and food in the refrigerator and someone who can take care of you when Mommy's too sick to get out of bed. Emma was quiet for a moment. Do you like him? Mr. Moretti? The question surprised Maya. I think he's a good man who wants to help us. He was nice when you were sick. He made toast and didn't mind when you threw up. He was very nice. And he said I was brave. Emma's voice was small. Nobody ever says I'm brave. Maya pulled her daughter close. You're the bravest person I know. And this letting Mr. Moretti help us, it's going to take even more bravery. Can you do that? Can you be brave for me? Emma was quiet for a long time. Then, will you really visit every day? Maya Castellano, a widowed single mother in the Bronx, is diagnosed with advanced cancer while struggling financially. When her 9-year-old daughter Emma finds and returns a lost wallet containing $50,000, she unknowingly connects them to Dante Moretti, a powerful crime boss, attempting to leave his violent past behind. Impressed by Emma's honesty in a world where integrity is rare, Dante offers to help when he learns of Maya's diagnosis. He proposes paying for her experimental cancer treatment worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for nothing but the chance to support someone who raised such an honest child. Maya initially refuses, proud and wary of accepting help from a criminal, but her worsening condition and Emma's welfare force her to reconsider. As Maya's health deteriorates during aggressive chemotherapy, Dante proposes temporary legal guardianship of Emma, ensuring the child has stability, proper housing, education, and care, while Maya focuses on treatment. After agonizing deliberation, Maya agrees, devastated by the choice but recognizing it's Emma's best chance. Emma moves into Dante's luxurious Cathedral Heights home, where housekeeper Rosa and the comfortable environment help her thrive. Meanwhile, Maya stays in the guest room during her worst treatment periods. During recovery, Maya and Dante develop a deep connection through honest conversations about their pasts, dreams, and losses. Over months of treatment, an unconventional family forms. Dante proves himself trustworthy and genuinely caring, while Maya's scans show the tumors shrinking. When she achieves remission, Dante proposes marriage not immediately, but as a promise of their future together. 1 year later, Maya is cancer-free and marries Dante in his garden, with Emma as flower girl. What began as a returned wallet transformed into a love story between a dying woman who learned to live again and a dangerous man who discovered redemption through protecting those who needed him most. Their family, built from impossible circumstances, becomes permanent and real. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel